But yeah, in game 2 they had a bow on pedestal scenario. As we're gonna get things started here, both starting in Link's house, both getting a freestanding key. By the way, today we're doing an all dungeons, open mode, randomized swords, normal difficulty, with retro mode.
Yeah, so it should be a pretty thorough seed. Usually these ones, you're checking almost every location in the game to get through. So we'll see some high collection rates, and we're going to see all of the dungeons. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get through it all, but you know, we're...
Yeah, we are definitely in for the long haul. Gonna check Uncle right here. Looks like we have a piece of heart inside the, well, for the Uncle item anyway. And gonna check the other chest now, and we're gonna get another piece of heart. Oh, wow. So yeah, we have some retro mode shenanigans going on here. For those who, also Red Boomerang in the chest in the Sanctuary, for those who haven't seen retro mode quite yet, basically it's a variation of the normal Link to the Past randomizer that kind of adapts a few different rules from Zelda 1. Mainly, keys are now freestanding. Small keys can go to pretty much any dungeon, so you could essentially grab keys from one dungeon and use them in another dungeon. You can also find keys in the overworlds as well. Another addition is rupees. As you can see, there's no bow icon up there. Rupees are going to be used as your ammo for the bow, much like in Zelda 1. So just a couple of different things to kind of make this experience more like the Zelda 1, so to speak.
Yeah, so yeah, resource management definitely comes into play here. You want to be, you know, banking your rupees as much as you can, and then, yeah, just holding on to the things that you do have, so that you don't find yourself short trying to get through a dungeon.
Yeah, and as you can see, both of them are actually checking some of these other entrances that you would not go to in a normal randomizer seed. That is because, much like Zelda 1, there are take-any caves, which are basically caves where you can find, in one of the caves, you can actually find a sword upgrade, kind of akin to the before you go alone, take this. And you can also find other take-any caves that have heart containers or potions if you happen to have a bottle. So most of these caves will only be in single entrance locations that don't normally have an item. So they're going to be checking probably a lot of buildings in Kakariko when we get down there, just to try to look for some of those take-any's. Okay, inside the Thieves' Hideout in the Forest, just another red rupee. Finding a lot of those early on, but nothing wrong with that. We have a lot of locations we need rupees for, and once we get the bow, that'll be plenty of ammo we can use as well.
Oh, nice tree pull there, getting 80 rupees out of that there. So that's really nice early on. We've got to pay off the bottle vendor, so that'll help cover those costs.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you wondering, this is a game 3, so these were actually the bot picks for this particular game. So none of the runners actually chose these settings. These were randomized for them. Okay, so we have some nice locations to check in here. We got 5 chests. We got some bombs to open up the last area as well. We're going to find 50 more rupees. The flippers. The hook shots. Another key we can use for dungeon diving. And some more bombs.
So that's a pretty good haul out of Blind's Hut there. Gives us access to a couple more locations with those flippers around the Lake Hylia region. And hookshot is always a nice item to find early on.
Yeah, it definitely is, for sure. Okay, here we go. Gonna check the other high volume location in Kakariko. Got some more rupees. Some more rupees. Ooh, the Ether Medallion Moon Pearl and another heart piece.
So far, these are all like nice pieces to be collecting, but they're not really in any particular direction. I don't think it quite yet. Nothing like really immediate progression.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. Still going to be looking for some stuff for sure. We did see Fylion bomb the bottle vendor. Apparently he's had some rough history with him in the past races, namely of the ice rod variety, so I think he was just showing his continued distaste for him, I guess. Okay, so still checking out some other locations. We went into the Kakariko shop right there. Also, there's our first Take Any cave over there. Zelda going to be going with the heart. I believe in retro mode, some of the shops will be designated arrow shops. Once we get the bow, we'll have the bow, but we need to actually purchase the ability to use arrows. So they're going to be on the lookout for those shops so they can actually purchase arrows when the time is right. And also, you can also purchase small keys from those shops as well.
So yeah, Zelda stumbled into another of the take any caves there. So we got two full hearts out of that. That's pretty nice early on.
Mm-hmm. And generally, I want to say kind of the strategy you'll see most often in retro is, kind of check out all these early Take Any cave possible locations. See if you can store some hearts. If you're lucky enough, maybe you can stumble onto that sword upgrade as well. And then, once you're kind of in a comfortable place, you really don't have to really worry about them anymore. And then you can just kind of focus on the, the game in front of you and the current seed you're working on. So we'll definitely be seeing a lot of that as we go through this.
Zelda deciding that he actually did not want to start at Sanctuary and is going to head down to Link's house instead.
I wonder if it may have been because he was considering doing Houlihan, but then he realized that he had the flippers and he doesn't have exactly the glove upgrade to, go to the escape Houlihan spot, so may have changed his mind. Houlihan actually a very good strategy in retro mode because of the whole rupee nature of the mode by itself.
Yeah, good call. That could have been what he...
Do find
some more.
Yeah, finding some more health here in the dam. Ooh, also find the fire rod drowned outside of the dam.
So it looks like Fylion picked up a key in the maze or the race there, and I think it looks like Zelda might have skipped out on that. Not going to make too much of a difference, I wouldn't think, but having an extra key is always kind of nice. So might work out in the early game for Fylion.
Yeah, that's true. So let's see how that works. Phylion's going to check another possible Take Any cave. Meanwhile, Zelda finding another piece of heart, some more rupees. And to be redundant, even more rupees here in Mini Moldorm Cave. Also, I absolutely love that swimming sprite for classic retro Link. I did not know that was the swimming animation.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay, so Zelda gonna be checking out the Ice Rod Cave. And I imagine with those flippers, he's probably going to be thinking maybe a quick stop in the Zora area. We'll not be able to pick up Zora's item, though, but we'll be able to get some other items in the form of the Waterfall Cave. Could also check Hobo if he really wants to, and at least see what the item is on Zora's Ledge.
Yeah, definitely in retro mode with rupees kind of as at a premium, you don't really want to be throwing down 500 if you're not absolutely sure he's got some, or at least he's got some inclination maybe that he's got something. It's a pretty steep investment.
Yeah, it really is. Definitely makes the kind of save and quit before you visit Zora strat more viable. That way you can kind of check what he has and then just, you know, reset your console or reset your game if he has nothing of value, just to save your money. We get a vanilla bottle from the Hobo here. And looks like we have another freestanding key here on the Lake Hylia Island.
So just a couple more checks here in the Zora area, and then where will Zelda go?
Yeah, that's a good question. Gonna find the silver arrows and another key inside the Waterfall Fairy Cave. Also gonna throw that bottle into the Great Fairy's pool to get himself a blue potion. Really, really nice item to get from that. Now gonna see what's on the Zora Ledge. Ooh, Power Glove. We are gonna be going around for that.
Yeah, no doubt. And it looks like fylion is heading for Hyrule Castle. So it might be a little while before he gets back around to some of these water locations. He skipped out on most of the Lake Hylia area stuff. So those gloves he's going to eventually get locked out somewhere and going to have to head over that way.
He might be also just kind of waiting till he gets enough money to kind of head over there to check Zora and all of that, because he definitely has a very distinct rupee advantage over Zelda at this current time. So checking these Hyrule Castle locations could give him the threshold he needs to get to that point.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. He is much closer to affording the $500 fee there, so definitely thinking about that. Picks up our first sword in this.
Yes, he does. And Zelda going inside of the back of Escape here. Gonna... Oh, well, unfortunately did not quite blow up the wall, but we'll blow it up now. Well, I think we have Dark World access now, Sabo.
Yeah, no doubt. This is working out pretty well for Zelda. He's going to have a lot of places to start investigating in the Dark World very shortly. But he's first taking a dive into the sewers here, making use of the fire rod to kind of light his way.
Yeah, it is definitely really nice to have these rooms kind of... Oh, and nice find by fylion, finding the mirror in the back of Zelda's cell there.
It's pretty interesting. We got both of our runners who have, found a couple of pretty interesting pieces to the puzzle here. It feels like fylion's probably going to get locked out a little sooner, so is likely going to get the glove and hammer combo soon enough. Might be a while for Zelda to get back to escape to get that mirror, though.
Yeah, that mirror and a sword upgrade, too. The hammer will definitely serve as a nice replacement, just because it does do tempered sword damage, but it also has that slightly smaller hitbox. Also getting a map check. Looks like we have pendants at Thieves Town and Ice Palace with the green pendant on Misery Mire.
Yeah, and red pendants, red crystals were Skull Woods and Swamp Palace, I think.
But now, let's get ready for some hype here. As we get some red rupees. A key, that's a little hype for retro mode. But really just red rupees and a key, that's all we're going to get from this.
Zelda's checking another potential location for. He finds the key shop and arrows as well. Very nice.
Yeah, so when we do get the bow, we will be able to use arrows. Now again, like Zelda 1, there will be a cost to using arrows, so you got to be very mindful of that, especially silver arrows, which are quite expensive compared to just the normal arrows.
Yeah, what are they, $50?
Yeah, I believe they're 50, so...
Okay, so fylion does have the cash now to pay off Zora, so he is looking to maybe do some of these Lake Hylia checks now, which will give him his glove.
First, obviously, going to be checking some of these other stores and other single entrance locations, just to see if he can find some other take-any's. We still have not found that sword take-any yet, so that is definitely still up for grabs. Zelda remembering there is a possible take-any right here before we get into the pod area, and it is our sword take-any. So yeah, it looks like Zelda is going to be going straight to pod with all those keys he just recently bought. Made sure he had just enough so he could actually get in here. So this is going to be our first dive into a dungeon right now, which is kind of interesting. You usually think, especially in the Dark World, that Thieves Town would be your first go-to, but, you know, his routing took him in this way, so he's going to see how it's going to pay off.
Yeah, it's kind of too bad that he's missing out on that mirror, or else I would suggest that he go to Swamp Palace, my favorite.
Is it because in version 30 it just always seems to have something?
It always has something. It's the best.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It definitely does.
Alright, it looks like fylion is going to be heading down into the back of Escape, and that will get him the hammer. He'll be kind of basically on even ground with Zelda, plus he'll have the mirror, which is a nice advantage for him.
Yeah, there are lots of mirror locations in the Dark World that, you know, if you don't have the mirror early on, you could be leaving them behind for a very long period of time. So having that mirror before you start your Dark World routing, we'll kind of make it easier to route in those locations, so you don't have to play the, okay, let's visit each one of these on each part of the world, and gets pretty annoying after a while, so I'm going to be thankful that he has that for sure.
Alrighty, Zelda picks up powder here in Pod. First kind of interesting item he's come across.
We're also going to find out that some cache requires the hammer from our very, very first telepathic hint in this scene.
Alrighty, and Zelda pulling off the potion glitch here to kind of trick the game into thinking that he's killed the mimics there, when in fact he has not, to give him access to the bow lock side of Pod here.
Yeah, I feel like at this point, one thing Zelda's really going to want to be looking for is the bow in here. If he can somehow manage to get that bow, he brought just enough keys so he could actually make it possible to clear this dungeon. You know, you will have to do a hammer jump, as we like to call it. It's a technique that will allow you to skip a locked door in order to get all the items inside. But, you know, if the bow's in here, that will actually give him just a nice full clear of this dungeon, which is always nice to have this early on.
Yeah, see, fylion knows what's up. Swamp Palace first bench, go for it.
It's also really nice because you're not going to be spending very many small keys in here, and you'll actually find 2 along the way as well, so it really is a good dungeon to go to first because of that. And there's just a huge plethora of items in here as well, so definitely a smart play for him to check this out while it's available to him. Looks like Zelda is actually on Master Sword now and gets another heart container as well.
Also nice to pick up some of this cash here. Meanwhile, fylion got an interesting hint there, letting us know that the lamp is on a graveyard ledge.
Ooh, well that's something he'll be able to pick up. It's actually in logic for him right now, so he could actually do that.
That is always one of those spots that, you know, it's nice to have that piece of knowledge that it's worthwhile visiting, because it is kind of an out-of-the-way check, especially because we haven't seen boots at this point, so you really are, it's a one-off location.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Zelda trying to set up the hammer jump as we talked about earlier. I think he got it. He did. Awesome. And he gets another small key for his efforts.
It's a bit of a slow crawl through this dark maze here. He's wanting to be a little careful, make sure he doesn't take too much damage before he sets up a death warp, or if that is in fact what he's doing. Oh, he's going for a save quit. I guess he's already cleared the dungeon out pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he pretty much got everything in that dungeon, so felt like it was time to leave. I think he got that chest as well and realized it was nothing of value, and just the fastest way to get out of there, I guess.
Yeah, he's likely heading over to Skullwoods and Village of Outcasts now, given what he's got in hand.
Meanwhile, fylion still making that trudge through Swamp Palace. Hasn't found anything of major value yet, aside from, again, that general knowledge hint of where the lamp is going to be if he so thinks he needs that. And Zelda checking out Sick Kid to get a small key.
Oh, we get a magic bat check from Zelda, having picked up that powder in pod there. That's too bad. A whole lot of nothing there, just a piece of love.
Did fill up his hearts to another container, though, so it's not... It could have been worse. It could have been just a heart piece without that.
Fylion onto left side swamp here. First chest is a piece. Second is a Cane of Burna. So that's our first invincibility item. Could be useful if we need to go to Spike.
That's true, and since we know where the lamp is, that will technically put Death Mountain in logic with that lamp information, so Fylion could use that information to maybe go up there at some point and get some other items.
Alright, looks like Zelga's gonna head for Skull Woods first, seeing as it is a crystal dungeon, and it's one that he can complete. So, definitely makes sense. You're 27 minutes in. Maybe you want to finish off a dungeon in full, so I think that's what he is planning on doing.
Yeah, another thing he could potentially be hoping for, and it's definitely something I like being able to implement if the seed works out in that way, where you can just kind of do just a giant counterclockwise swirl through the Dark World, kind of going from dungeon to dungeon, from Skull Woods to Thieves Town to Swamp Palace, maybe even the Ice Palace if you happen to get all those items. It's definitely a nice little efficient way to kind of route in all those dungeons and everything in between as well.
I agree.
Anyway, Zelda actually going this way through Skull Woods so we can avoid basically using a key, able to get a key from that chest that will always have a small key, using it on that door, and then basically not wasting anything, where if he went the other way, he'd have to use a key to get in here. So definitely nice key management from Zelda here.
So for Sarah Zelda in chat there, Zelda is at 6 and 5, I think, at this time. Fylion is at 3 and 9. So unfortunately, Fylion is just playing for pride here. He's out mathematically from moving on to the bracket stage. But Zelda, if he can win his remaining matches, he will end up in a tie for second with Elminster, and that will go to a tie break.
And if we could tell from Phylion's file names, he definitely seems pretty tilted about that second game in the Bow on Pedestal, so he's going to want to get his vengeance just in this alone. You know, I couldn't beat you before, but maybe I'll knock you out of the group stage, so could be what he's thinking right now.
Zelda heading straight for the back here, going to ignore that one small chest there for now.
Meanwhile, fylion, getting through the menu portion of the boss fight, now going to be taking on phase 2. Not too bad with sword spins. It will take quite a number of hits, though, but we'll switch over to the hammer whenever he gets a good opportunity to. Ooh!
Yikes. Kind of unexpected there.
Yeah, a little bit. Unfortunately, he is going to have to go back to do a rematch with Argus, and that will definitely cost some time on his end. We do have another boss fight here on Zelga's side, taking on Mothula. He has some fire rod shots to spare, but looks like whenever he gets a chance, he will be using some sword for some additional damage. Ooh, very nice.
Ooh, okay, so I guess like the one upside from taking the death to Argus there, he gets to come back around and pick up the big chest there, which has Arcane of Samara.
Yeah, that is definitely a good find. I have definitely seen races before where, you know, after you finish the dungeon, you know there's one item left in the dungeon, and if you're feeling behind, you may have the choice to skip it. So it's good that you know, that death did allow him to come back in here. He was able to pick up that item on the way, and he will not run in that position where he has a chance to skip that chest. So that's good that he found that.
I thought you were going to say there are games that have been won or lost by the Cane of Samaria, and you were making a reference to my horrible performance this morning.
I actually did not see that, so I have no idea.
That's exactly what happened to me. I did not find a cane. I am bad at this game. Alright, Fylion stocking up there. Just a couple of nice little pickups there if you're running low on supplies there, and extra heart always.
Yeah, now he's going to be moving on to round 2 against Argus. Now he could also opt to use Fighter Sword here. You can actually, if you do Fighter Sword spins, you can actually get 2 puffs at once, and you don't have to worry about all the menu switching. But you're still going with Hammer. Hammer will, you know, also assuredly work and get rid of the puffs in one swing. Just have to really look out for that hitbox.
So Fylion was trying to pull 2 puffs at once there, but then decided to just kind of take them one at a time and just get through this fight. As much as it is kind of a time sink, and having died once already, you just got to take your time and finish up.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like he definitely has the pattern now, though, so he should be fine.
Alrighty, so after a little trouble there with Argus the first time around, Fylion takes care of Argus. That puts us at 1 crystal apiece here.
Yeah, and of course, since it's all dungeons, we will have to, at some point, finish up the pendant dungeons as well, in addition to Castle Tower, too. So, all dungeons must go in the seed. Okay, looks like Fylion going to check out Cave 45 next. Inside, we got 50 rupees. Well, Okay, realizing, it is retro mode, 50 rupees may not be too bad. That's a single arrow shot, so going back to grab that before he leaves.
Ooh, Zelda picks up Bombos in Thieves Town here.
And yeah, I see another question in chat asking about the current group standings. In first place for this group, we do have Dracaries. He's already basically earned his spots into the brackets. None of the remaining members who have games in Group N actually has enough games to actually get a higher win count than Drax. So because of that, he will be advancing for sure. So at this point, we're still trying to figure out who's going to get this second place position. As we discussed before, fylion can no longer do that, but Zelda can. Zelda needs to win the remaining 4 matches of his, including this one, in order to make it into the bracket stage, or at least have a chance to make it in there.
I think that was the best hint I've ever seen. Some bombs require a bomb.
Yeah,
dog, I heard you like bombs.
And I think the funniest one I've heard of is like some cash can be purchased with money or something like that. Okay, so it does look like fylion is moving over to the Village of Outcasts side of the Dark World next. So going to be following in Zelga's footsteps now.
Oh, we don't have the Titan's Mitts just yet. So yeah, not really too much of worth here in Thieves Town, other than the Bombos Medallion, which might come into play for either Misery Mire or Turtle Rockwell later.
Yeah, that's true. Nothing substantial just yet. I'm gonna take a look and see what this last item is gonna be, of course, obviously. Imagine after this play, Zelda is going to probably do kind of a little bit of a swing around to kind of clean up those last remaining locations here in this side of the Dark World. Unfortunately, will not have the mirror to take advantage of some of the locations he has remaining. We'll have to at some point make it back in the front of Escape to actually get that mirror.
Yeah, kind of unless he's willing to sequence break up Death Mountain, then yeah, he's going to start to run out of locations to actually find.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice fight from Zelda on blind, gets the blue pendant, and we'll see what exactly his next move is going to be here. Looks like he's going to go for the bombable hut here in the Village of Outcasts next. We have not seen this yet. So yeah, once again, going to be kind of treading some ground for both runners here. fylion moving through Skull Woods, which Zelga's already done, and Zelga kind of checking out the digging game. Stumpy will unfortunately not be able to go into Swamp Palace just yet until he gets that mirror. I think he's kind of at a point where he will have to, you know, at this point, available to him with the equipment he has logically, would be either Eastern Palace or, again, the front half of Hyrule Castle, so we'll have to see what he does after this.
Yeah, I get the feeling that with what he's got available to him, if he wants to stay in logic, then it's all he's got left, so he's going to have to head that way.
He could also assume that because he doesn't have the lamp yet, he could probably assume, like, he might assume that the lamp is in Hyrule Castle and might go up to Death Mountain because of that and just kind of think that, well, I don't necessarily need the lamp, so I'll just go ahead and go up this way, and it looks like that might be what he's thinking here.
You know, I guess just hoping that what might be up on Death Mountain will help him, you know, continue to clear things out, I guess, you know, and it makes sense, this kind of a play. I think, you know, given that there's a lot of items up there, I'd consider going forward.
Right, for sure. I mean, we have the hook shot, we can get to the east side, we have the hammer, so we can even clear out Tower of Hera right now as well. If we find the mitts, that's more stuff we can take a look at too, so it's definitely a really good play, and really strong play on his behalf.
Meanwhile, fylion cutting it close here again with another boss, but manages to take down...
Yeah, and he is still working on Fighter Sword too, so definitely really well done on his behalf. Okay, so we're going inside Spectacle Rock blind here. Not going to check and see what that item is, because in version 30, with the addition of the telepathic hint tiles, it's honestly more beneficial to go in here blind, grab the item. If it's good, good. If it's not, well, at least you have the hint here. The bow requires the Cane of Samaria.
Huh, interesting. So is it on Vitreous, or is it in Turtle Rock? Bow in Turtle Rock feels like the place where it always...
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, looking at our crystals and pendants here, because both Eastern Palace and Pod, even if just one of them were, since they're crystals, we know that it cannot be in Ganon's Tower, because that's another potential place where Cane of Samaria could be blocking items, but we know it's either going to be in those two dungeons that you mentioned, so definitely good information to have. Definitely. Okay, so next we're going to be taking a nice little look here at Paradox Cave. Got 2 chests on the bottom, 5 chests in the top, so a lot of item possibilities here. Looks like fylion does find another key shop. Well, I don't know what it is, but these 5 locations, or these 5 item locations, have not been paying off today.
Oh, yeah. kind of you try to go for these high density spots, but yeah, they are not paying off at all. Well, I guess they're paying off in a different way in the form of rupees. But...
That's true. That's true. Okay, just another red rupee on the Death Mountain Lonely Island over there, so probably not going to grab that unless we're really, really desperate for ammo. And we're going to be taking our first look at Tower of Hera. We're going to get, I believe, actually 3 items in retro mode, and as well as 2 hints.
Yeah, it makes the dungeon a little bit more valuable to take a look.
Except when the hints give you stuff like that. But we do get the Titan's Mint, so that is definitely something worth picking up in here.
It's interesting because, like, all of this, what's happening for Zelda is he's kind of getting led along. So those Titan's Mints are a great find, but so he's going to head over to Dark Death Mountain after this, I imagine. But it's going to keep him further away from that mirror, which we know is in Escape.
And you know what's interesting as well? Like, he got that hint about the bow. You know, he might have... Oh, no, he doesn't. He doesn't have this... I'm thinking of fylion. He does not have the Kinesamari yet. But yeah, like, you are definitely right. He will definitely be strung along in different locations. And one location I can think of right now is Ice Palace. That's actually kind of on the table now, right now.
Ooh, yeah, you're right. So yeah, I guess the good thing is that he'll have stuff to do, but eventually that could dry up, and then he might not know where to go.
Mm-hmm.
fylion reading best hint there in Thieves Town.
Ooh, nice pinball strats from Zelda there, getting rid of 2 of the beetles with 1 spin attack. Some cash is on a boss. I wonder which boss it's talking about.
So that's all 3 items that we're going to see here in Tower of Hera. So the mitts are definitely the big takeaway from this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with those mitts, you'll be able to check pretty much all of the East Dark Death Mountain locations. We'll also be able to get the intel on Turtle Rock, could even open Turtle Rock and take a peek at that hint if he has the right medallion, but he definitely has some stuff to do up here still. Takes down Moldorm, and will be rewarded with the map, so already got all the items.
Alright, so Zelda is boogieing on over to Dark Death Mountain now, Hookshot Cave, Super Bunny, and we'll find out what the medallion requirement will be for Turtle Rock.
We got 2 medallions so far, so could be one of those, but could throw us a curveball and give us a Quake requirement. We'll have to see.
Nice blind fight from fylion there, keeping blind on the script.
Oh, 50 rupees on blind. That could be our cash on a boss that the hint talked about earlier. One thing I am going to point out really quick about something chat said, we are definitely seeing a lot more retro as of late, and honestly I think it's because we are kind of hitting that point where a lot of our runners are approaching their game 3s. Retro wasn't kind of that popular of a mode at first, but now that we're kind of in the randomizer bot picks, you know, because retro is not that popular, you could see a lot of games actually feature retro now because of the randomized settings. So yeah, getting a nice dose of retro for a lot of these game 3 picks.
So we got Bombos as the required medallion, and Zelda is taking.
Yeah, without Canis and Maria, he'll only be able to see the hint in here, but that hint could be some very valuable information as fylion picks up his lamp. Oh, wow, we get another lamp is on the pose. So that's actually really good that Zelda found that, because he knows that the mirror is going to be at some point before the lamp is. So he might actually know now that the mirror is actually in a very early location.
Yeah, that's a really helpful hint.
Meanwhile, finds a shield and another heart container inside the Super Bunny Cave. Gonna more than likely check out Hookshot Cave next. And fylion, taking his new lamp, gonna go straight for Death Mountain. Once again, kind of following in Zelga's footsteps. The only difference is he's actually kind of in logic right now.
Yeah, so given fylyon's got the mirror there, what we'll see is after Tower of Hera and all of this kind of clearing out of Death Mountain, then we might start to see a little bit of divergence, unless Zelda gets the hint to head to escape right.
Mm-hmm. One thing fylion will be able to do is he has the Canis and Maria, so when he finishes Tower of Hera, he could actually go into Turtle Rock and check a few things, maybe actually unearth that bow in a very early location if it's in one of those 3 first locations of Turtle Rock.
Yeah, that would work out pretty nicely for him, because that'll give us access to the rest of EP and Pod, finish those off. So could kind of swing the race in his favor.
Oh, okay. Mega Freak 400 in chat does bring up a point, though. According to the tracker, he does not have Bombos. Oh yeah, he does. He does.
Oh, because that was in Thieves Town.
Yeah, okay.
Shout out to our tracker, Longroad, who made the very quick adjustment there to fylyon's tracker. Doing a great job behind the scenes there, clicking those buttons for us. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, look at Zelga here. Zelga immediately going into Ice Palace.
You know, this, based on the hint that he received, and the way the items have played out for him, maybe he's, actually no, he's clearing the dungeon out to just get it done, I guess, but this doesn't actually line up with the logic of the hint that he received there.
Mm-hmm. I guess kind of another way to look at it is, you know, he could have also, and this is something that we could, you know, definitely verify with him after the race in the interview or something, but maybe he took the hint to think that, well, okay, so I can't get the lamp right now. Maybe it's the flute that's available early, and maybe he doesn't think the mirror is in sequence yet. So, I guess kind of a thing where maybe the hints can have kind of a two-pronged effect. Sometimes they can help you in the right direction. Sometimes they could even mislead you more based on what you're kind of thinking, what the hint means.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, one thing that the hints will tell us is that the green pendant is blocking some cash, so won't have to turn that in once we get it. Okay, fylion finished taking his death warp right there. He's going to be climbing up the tower for real now, as Zelda, making his way through Ice Palace, still just got done performing the Ice Palace bomb jump, which is good considering he does not have the Cane of Samaria, so that'll allow him to kind of make it through this dungeon a little bit faster.
So some cash there, was that? For the purple chest, that's one that we won't have to...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another good aspect of the hints. Not only could they tell you where an item could potentially be, but they could also tell you where, you know, items aren't going to be, or items you don't care about where they could be. So because of that, you can kind of skip those kind of out-of-the-way locations that you'd never really like going to or checking out. So you can kind of save a little time by not having to check those if you get that information. Also, for a split second, both of our runners had the same exact number of rupees before Zelda just picked up a 5 in the chest in here in Ice Palace.
Oh, wow. Moldorm really bullying fylion there. He manages to take him down.
You heard it here, folks. Moldorm is a big bully. He really is, though. He just pushes you around and just very, very mean.
So rude.
Okay, next up we have the Ice Palace Big Chest. Just another blue rupee. And we are going down to fight... Well, okay, not quite yet. I think we still have one more chest to get in the iced tea room, but after that, then we'll be going down to fight Cold Stir.
So I guess the good thing about Ice Palace being a bit of a bust so far is that it's going to bring to an end kind of the chain that's been stringing Zelda along, and he's going to have to start thinking about where that mirror might be hanging.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, we mentioned it earlier, he still has the 2 early game checks of the front of Hyrule Castle, which is where the mirror is, as well as Eastern Palace. I could see him going to, honestly, either of those locations. If he's still kind of under that assumption, if he is on that assumption, that Flute was supposed to be the Death Mountain access, could honestly opt to check some of those other locations, like that the Mitts opened up. We do have the Smith chain available to us now.
Going with Bombos off the start here just to save that magic in case he wants to use the Fire Rod at some point in it. Nice hits there, getting both of the Cold Stare.
He's also making sure that if he does have to get hit by something, he's making sure it's by the icicles that fall down and not Cold Stare himself. Cold Stare does a lot of damage to you, so you gotta be careful of that.
Yeah, especially because we are still on green mail.
We definitely are.
Alright, looks like Zelda is making the play on Front of Escape. This is going to snap everything back into logic. Meanwhile, fylion is checking out Turtle Rock here, most likely. He's going to at least be able to open it. Will he take a look inside? He might. We're looking for the bow, which we think could be down there.
Yeah, that's right. We did get a hint that said Kana Samaria is blocking the bow. And in this particular case, that means Bo's either going to be behind Vitreous and Misery Mire. It's going to be the very first chest in Turtle Rock, the two chests on the right side of the first big area, or on Trinex. Those are the basic Samaria blocks the hints are referring to, because it tries to take into account all of the different potential modes that you can play in the randomizer, including inverted mode. So we know that it can only be on those specific Turtle Rock locations, because those are the only locations that would block the item in question. As we do find it immediately, we have the bow, and Phylion's going to be leaving immediately because he does not have all of the tools to complete Turtle Rock just yet.
Oh, so just to answer a question in chat, the runners can veto any of the available options for the tournament. So I think there was someone posing, can you veto normal? Yes, you can definitely veto normal. So yeah, you can veto anything. And in this particular seed, it was fylion who decided to veto swordless, and Zelda vetoed the Ganon goal.
Yes, that is correct, and there we go. I also love how Zelda dropped a bomb intending to Death Warp until he got that mirror. He's like, okay, don't have to do this now. Also, I guess while Zelga's here, he's going to go ahead and take care of Aga Tower. Honestly, this could actually be a pretty good play, because if he has to do something like the Pyramid Bomb, he actually has a faster way of getting back here once he does beat Aga Tower, so definitely an interesting play from him.
Yeah, and I guess if you're just trying to like route in things efficiently, hey, mushroom, that's kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to route things in efficiently, you're already here to pick up the mirror. Might as well just go for it and do the tower. Doesn't have the lamp, so this is going to be fun.
Is that fun in very, very heavy quotation marks?
The biggest of quotes.
very, very true. Thankfully, in some of the hardest rooms of this tower, you will have torches that you can light, so that will allow you to get through this really awkward maze room, and the upcoming room that actually has a pit that you can fall in as well. So you can learn where those torches are, use the fire rod very effectively, and light your way through some of the hardest rooms without having to fumble your way through the madness, so to speak.
Ooh, so we had fylion revisiting a location that he already checked. Kind of interesting that he might have forgotten about that for a moment there, but it looks like he's also going to be doing the tower climb. Yeah, I mean, I guess seeing as you're here, you might as well take care of it. And I guess in retro mode, something I learned, these two chests can have something as opposed to just the keys which they normally hold. So worth kind of taking these checks out. And we found the mushroom up here, so that could also turn into something.
Yeah, definitely. There's also a hint tile in here as well. We did get the hint. And honestly, low-key, actually a pretty good hint. It said that some bombs were in Mimic Cave. We don't care about the bombs, but we do know what Mimic Cave has, so now we don't have to worry about checking that when we go up through Turtle Rock, if we do have to go up there through there early. Okay, so now we're going to be starting the AGA 1 fight here. One of the things we like to take notice of is how many blue energy ball attacks that Aghanim will throw at us. Basically, they're attacks that we cannot reflect back at him, and just in general, waste a lot of time in this fight. Usually you see around 3, but sometimes in very low cases, but still possible cases, you can get up to 15, so we already got one of them.
Now, this is something that zelgadissan does in every one of his AGA fights. He will kind of swing his sword to the beat, which I definitely approve of.
Yeah, nothing wrong with having a little bit of fun in your runs, for sure. Also, yeah, fylion, you may notice he does have a 2-sword disadvantage on Zelda right now. Because fylion has the cape, he was able to actually get by the electric barrier. Normally you can only break that with the Master Sword, but if you have Fighter Sword, you can still get through here no problem, just have to have that cape first. So it looks like we only had 3 blue energy balls in that fight, so, you know, pretty standard, generally what you can come to expect from a lot of these fights.
Alright, and having collected that mirror, it looks like Zelda is gonna head down to Swamp. Or not. No, of course not. He's gonna go to take care of the mushroom.
Yeah, sounds like a good play to me. You just got that, could give him something great. A lot of people, when they play these all dungeon seeds, you know, AGA Tower is one of the last things they do. So, you know, you finish it early. If it's a potential item, you could be saving a lot of time on your opponent. So, I like the thinking involved with this. And see, this could actually be really nice for him if he does decide to do Swamp Palace next. He can finish that up and then go north to get the Pyramid Bomb and work on that, get those items, and then maybe even take a trip over to our good friend the Catfish, because this would probably be a good time to do that.
Yeah. So while Zelda heads down to Swamp, it looks like fylion is going to take care of Palace of Darkness. Has the bow in hand, so he'll be able to full clear that, and then dip right into Eastern Palace after that. Finally picks up his Master Sword. That's kind of nice. Been sitting there for a little while, and now...
Yes, it will definitely be really nice to have. I believe that was the first sword that Zelda got. I'm trying to remember where the second sword was for Zelda. It may have been in Pod. So I think that's the only thing that's Zelda's done that Fylion hasn't yet. Zelda also getting that reminder that the lamp is in the graveyard ledge. At this point, I'm wondering if he'll even pick that up. He's gotten through some of the tough dark rooms without it so far. Does have the fire rod too, so may not even opt to pick up that lamp.
Yeah, that is a good point. We've made it through most of the trickier dark rooms. Misery Mire is still outstanding at this point, but I imagine that both of these guys can handle that no problem without a...
Mm-hmm. So yeah, looking at our items that we found and what we're still looking for, at this point, the biggest unknowns that we still need to find are definitely the ice rod and the flute at this point. Book and boots could be required, but we will need to get more information on those. Obviously, we don't have the Meyer medallion information just yet as well. So, you know, finding Quake may not be so bad to find, just so we're secure with all those medallions. But yeah, it's basically what we're trying to find right now of the items that are still left on the table.
Yeah, and like kind of based on what we have access to and what we have seen between both of our runners here, I've got a feeling that Turtle Rock actually has a bit more to offer, whether that's just the flute or if that's the flute and the ice rod. But Fylion had a chance to check that out and decided to mirror out right after the bow. Could have gone maybe a little further in, but you know, it's a good call to just kind of back out, you know, when you've got that one item that you know is progression. But I got a feeling there might be something a little more.
Yeah, with Turtle Rock, you got to think, I mean, that's 5 locations right off the bat. But in retro mode, that actually gets added a couple more locations due to the fact that the keys are now, you know, potentially anywhere. So, you know, it is interesting to see him back out because of that. But at the same time, he had a lot of keys in his possession. So it could be thinking that because there are a lot of key locks in Pod, that may have been a better first play, assuming that he knows that he can complete this now with the bow. So I imagine that's what he's thinking, but we'll have to see later on, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, he is going to go straight for Helmasaur King in the back here.
Yeah, well, this will give us a look at the one item location that Zelda was not able to get to in his pod dive. I don't know if it's the map or the compass, and can't quite remember what Zelda found or did not find in the dungeon the first time around. So, could be an item, it could be not.
Also, Zelda having a much faster Argus fight than what Fylion had to deal with. Having Tempered Sword definitely makes a difference. Okay, and it's also good that Zelda is going back in the swamp because, you know, there's kind of an item we need in here, Cana Samaria, so it's good that he's going back to get that.
opting for some hammer strats here on Helmasaur. Takes him down pretty easily.
And the item we're going to get is 300 rupees, more cash on a boss. That hint we got a while ago is definitely proving true for our runners. But of course, Fylion not leaving just yet. He still has some items here in pod to take a look at. So we're going to grab those first before we end up leaving here.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not going to find too much value in.
Anyway, curious to see where Zelda is going to head next. If it's what I think he's going to do, he's probably... Well, actually, first of all, guess he has some mirror checks he has to make still, so he's going to... Looks like he's going to be going for that. I kind of expected the Pyramid Bomb because we do have both of those crystals in Zelda's possession right now.
Yeah. That could be next.
True. Yeah, he is close, so... Anyway, Fylion does pick up his Tempered Sword now, so now they're both on the same sword level.
Wants to try and save that one key he's got left, so is going to yump his way over to the big...
Yes, Zelda did get that sword. I believe both of them have gotten the same swords now. We have not found the last one yet. And see, the great thing about beating Aghanim 1, you have this nice little portal here. You can make a portal here anyway. Go across the bridge and you're right in front of the pyramid. Don't have to go the long way around with the hammer, pegs, and everything. Even in retro, that's not that good either.
No, that's bad. Alright, Zelda, where you go?
Going back to the Pod Eastern area, might be considering making the same check Fylion is here. Might be checking out Sashrala and then going into Eastern Palace.
Trying to grind that rail there or something. This isn't Tony Hawk.
I was going to say Sonic Adventure 2, but same difference, really. Oh, okay, there's where the Quake Medallion was. I noticed that Fylion had that, and also Blue Mail, too, so not too bad.
Alright, so Zelda is heading up Death Mountain here. He's cleared out everything else on the mountain, so he's up here for one reason only, and that's to go into Turtle Rock. So if he actually dives deeper into the dungeon, then we'll get a look at some new item locations.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned earlier is the possibility of, you know, Flute or even Ice Rod being in here in Turtle Rock, and that could very well be the case. So, you know, going a little bit further could actually be a huge turnaround in this race once again. Fylion was definitely kind of behind a bit in terms of dungeon completion, but he has kind of caught back up with that bow find. Didn't have to come back down the mountain. Was able to go straight into Turtle Rock, get the bow, and then start making some more dungeon progress. So, you know, tide's kind of shifting in his favor, but it could shift again if Zelda goes a bit farther and finds something good.
Yeah, no doubt. This thing's definitely been a bit of a back and forth, kind of a seesaw here. Fylion picking up half magic in Eastern Palace. That's always nice to find. So.
Did he actually pick up that key? Because I didn't see the number go up, unless I just barely missed it.
I didn't quite catch.
And yeah, looks like Zelda is continuing further, so gonna be seeing some new item checks in here.
So now Fylion heads into the fight for the most expensive boss in Retro. Having to spend 10 rupees pop there, times 18 hits if you don't miss anything. Costs you almost 200 rupees just to fight this boss.
Yeah, and if you miss any of those arrow shots, that could be not great. Zelda does find the red mail inside the roller room here in Turtle Rock. Okay, Fylion did get that key. I guess I just must have missed it.
Interesting. He is walking out from Pod here. Has he done catfish yet? Is that what he's thinking to do? Is to run?
I imagine that is still on the table, and I don't think we've seen that from either runner yet, so that could be what he's thinking here. Oh, actually, he's thinking of Hobo right now.
Ah, so we saw this check from Zelda, but I guess we didn't see Fylion go this way. So yeah, that makes sense then. It's a decent way to route that.
Yeah. And see here, if he wanted to, he could also swim south to where Ice Palace is and start working on that.
That's a pretty likely play, yeah. Good.
No, he is going back to his portal. Well, I mean, again, he could also go to Catfish, Mirror, take the Whirlpool over to Ice Palace. Or he could just be going south, maybe to Pyramid Bomb, to get his disappointing 10 rupees. Or more Take Any Caves. Oh, he's stocking up on some more keys. Okay, I see how it is.
Maybe he's thinking to head back up to Turtle Rock at this point. I don't know. Yeah, good call to stock up on keys when you can. So you're going to need a few.
Yeah, definitely. Zelda remembering that Mimic Cave is not going to contain any goodies, so gonna skip that location and move on. We are about at Laser Bridge, so still no turn up of that Ice Rod or Flute just yet.
I guess the only other thing that we could be hoping for here would be like the book to get access to Desert Palace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure, of course. There it is.
I feel like every time we call a race together, there's at least one moment of that where we just talk about an item, and then right there we get it.
It magically appears, yeah. This does make me a little bit worried that there's going to be nothing at Laser Bridge, so unfortunately we've kind of dove deep into a dungeon that we can't...
Yeah, those are the breaks sometimes, though, when it comes to Randomizer, but we have 3 chests here left to look at. Let's hope there's something good. Unfortunately, not going to get rewarded today, but we are going to be leaving a little bit of a safety door right here. And this is something I've seen in a lot of recent races that's actually pretty smart. If you mirror right here and leave your portal here and continue doing some of the light world stuff, if you happen to find the ice rod, you can actually just mirror or just go back up here and take that portal again. To potentially save yourself having to go through all of Turtle Rock again.
Yeah, he's taken a shot here that it could be on the ether tablet. So if that is the case, that's going to pay off.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll have to see how this goes. Meanwhile, checking out Catfish finally. What is he going to have today? We have bombs. Don't need any of that.
Yeah, so after doing a couple of checks there, picking up some keys, fylion looks like he's heading over to Ice Palace next.
Okay, ether tablets. Wrong blue item. And unfortunately with that save and quit, the portal will disappear now, so unfortunately cannot use the safety door to get back into Turtle Rock, but you know, we do have some items now we can work with, or at least the book anyway. And Zelda still has to take a look at Eastern, so he's probably going to be going to Eastern Pod combo next to finish that up. But then it's kind of free range of what's supposed to be the next step. Honestly, that book could be the next step at this point.
Yeah, based on what we know, it seems like something is hanging around in Desert Palace now. But, you know, when you just pick up the bow there and you haven't done Pod in Eastern, yeah, that's definitely going to be the first place your brain thinks of to clear out.
Right. Because, yeah, I think available to us right now, like, obviously Desert Palace with that book find. We still have to see the Smith chain, I believe. I don't think we've seen any of that yet, so that could also give us some items too. It's almost kind of a 3-for-3 scenario where you have 3 items coming from both of those different plays, so could be interesting to see what fylion does after this. He might opt to go back into Turtle Rock to make that same play that Zelda just came back from doing, and Zelda obviously has some options to do after he finishes up these 2 dungeons.
Yeah, despite the runners being in kind of different places at this moment, and they actually haven't really overlapped at all throughout this seed, it's still anyone's game. It's really hard to tell who's got a real solid advantage at this point. I feel like Zelda might have just a bit of an edge at this point, but there's any number of ways this could still play out.
Yeah, it's really going to depend on what fylion decides to do after Ice Palace, I think. If he takes a chance on the Smith chain, that could be huge if that's the item. But if he makes the play up the Turtle Rock after this, then you know he's essentially going to be probably on equal terms with Zelda then, because Zelda still has to. I mean, Eastern's not a terribly long dungeon, and he just has to make it to the end of Pod here, so he doesn't have a lot to go here, so I'd say, you know, finishing up these two kind of short visits is about the time it takes to full clear Ice Palace. Maybe Ice Palace being a little shorter.
Gotta save cash where you can. Zelda choosing to use sword slashes to take care of the two green mimics, but then using an arrow to turn the crystal.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the things that like I really had to try to keep in mind when I first played retro mode, is that, you know, if I don't have a lot of rupees, I can't really depend on this bow too much, so gotta, you know, kind of start improvising a bit, maybe using some more magic items, or in that case, sword beams. Sword beams can actually be very useful in a mode like this.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, just finds the torch just in time in this turtle room for Zelda. And yeah, Zelda still does not have the lamp. It does have the information of where the lamp is, but at this point, he seems dedicated to finishing the seed without it. And, you know, if he can do it, he can manage the dark rooms, more power to him.
Alrighty, so Helmasaur King is down. Zelda's gonna probably mirror immediately and go right into the Eastern Palace. Hasn't checked that dungeon out yet, I don't think, has he? So
no,
we'll have to still clear it. Yeah, still have to clear it before actually going for Armos next.
Yeah, but it's a fairly quick check, so it shouldn't take him too much time to do. As Fylion is reaching the end here of Ice Palace. And I believe actually has a sword advantage compared to what Zelda had when he was here, so will probably be a slightly faster Cold Stare fight.
Yep, that was a pretty solid fight there, almost as good as you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Oh, I did not notice that Fylion had half magic. Guess half magic could have been in here.
Yeah, it is in the Eastern Palace. Big.
Okay, so he'll be able to pick. Zelda will be able to pick that up shortly. And I do see a save and quit from Fylion, so... Oh, no, he is going to Sanctuary, so he's not going to quite go back to Death Mountain just yet, which is good, so he's going to check the Smith Chain next, I imagine.
Yeah, we have not seen Smith Chain, so could be another piece of the puzzle that we're missing. Like, finding Flute there would be pretty solid, so this might work out in his favor.
That would have been useful information to have earlier, hence,
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, if we do get something from the Smith Chain, I would honestly say advantage Fylion for this race, because at this point, really the only difference in dungeon completion between these two is Fylion has Eastern done, which is what Zelga's working on right now, so Fylion will have a very, very small advantage, and that advantage will be from actually skipping out on the rest of Turtle Rock when he did, so that could actually be big for him.
Yeah, so long as he can get something from this Smith chain, then then it would definitely work out for him. Interesting next few minutes here.
But yeah, likewise, as Chad is saying, if you know, the flute or ice rod ends up being on like Bombo's tablet or in Desert Palace, again, that advantage kind of swings back around to Zelda because he's gone to Turtle Rock to get the book. So it's really, really interesting to see how this is going to play out.
So fylion taking care of these slow hammer pegs here without the ability to item dash. This is a kind of a pain in the ass check, or pain in the butt, sorry, check.
I would have gone for those 50 rupees.
It's retro mode after all.
Yeah. Again, as the chat said earlier, muscle memory is huge when it comes to playing retro, especially if it's a mode you don't really play too often, so it's definitely understandable to see that. Unfortunately, it just gets the mirror shield from the blacksmith here. Okay, looks like the magic bat did not pay off either, just given a piece of heart.
So Zelda is going to head towards desert. He's got not too much else that he can do. fylion doesn't have the knowledge that the purple chest is a bust, unfortunately, so he's going to carry it around with him for a little bit.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot about that hint, and yeah, I think with that, I think the play Zelda made was the correct one, because unless there's something in Agina, I don't think, I think we've gotten all the stuff fylion can check right now. Okay, so just a heart container on the Bombo's tablet. Gonna stop in at our good friend Agina on the outskirts of the desert.
So if Agina has something, then fylion might make that check, and that might help him out.
Ooh, it's in Desert Palace. So yeah, like we said before, you know, with this possibility, the advantage swinging back in Zelga's court because he has the book, he can make this desert check. fylion has to go all the way back to Turtle Rock, get all the way to the room before the Dark Samaria room, and get the book from that chest before he can do any of the stuff that Zelga's about to do. So he has quite the difference to make in front of him.
Alrighty, finding the big key here. So a couple more chests to take a look at first. We like to go look at what's on the torch. We don't have the boots yet, so hopefully it's nothing too important because that'll really throw a wrench in everything. Probably can't be anything of value at this point. That'd be kind of good. Oh, there it is. Ice rod.
There we go. That's going to be our Turtle Rock completion right there. And you know, we're in an interesting position in this race right now, or in this seed rather, where, you know, we haven't found the flute yet, but looking at what Misery Mire is a pendant, so our flute could be in Ganon's Tower, or from an item we'll get in Ganon's Tower.
You know, I think I see our tracker Long Road there. He called flute in GT Big Chest, I think, you know, at least half an hour ago. So that's something that was on the table, and kind of based on the item density, that seems like actually a fairly likely scenario, is that we're going to find it in GT.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, when you think about what Zelga's checked at this point, he's checked all of Turtle Rock except what's on Trinex, so, you know, he knows that there's not going to be much for him in Turtle Rock, so Ganon's Tower is the most heavily dense area in the game, and will be in logic after he finishes Turtle Rock, so that's more than likely going to be his play now. Just go for the gold, go for that potential go mode in that area, and just move on from there. Bit of a 2-cycle there for Zelga. Does get Lemnos down, gets his 6th crystal, and just at this point has to go to Turtle Rock to get his last one, and unlike Fylion, he does have the Ice Rod, so he will be able to finish it. Fylion, unfortunately, because of the nature of the seed, it wanted you to go all the way to the, basically the chest before the Dark Room to get that book, so you could go back down and make this a double dip. Unfortunately, ended up triple dipping the dungeon, and that will definitely cost him some time here.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only thing that's made a significant difference in this race, I would say. Because, I mean, execution-wise, you know, we've seen some pretty solid stuff from both runners here, and I don't think anyone's made any major slip-ups. But that triple dip into TR here is kind of looming large for.
Yeah, definitely. Also, seeing a hour and 43-minute Houlihan, definitely a viable strat in retro mode. Getting some rupees before the, you know, the eventual climb up Ganon's Tower, and of course, you know, for Ganon as well, we want to use silver arrows against the pigs, so might as well stock up on stuff when we can. And also going to be picking up some keys, I believe, as well. Or he actually might be checking Zora really quick.
Now, for me, this is pretty interesting. Like, you've got all of GT, that's, you know, 27 chests that you've got to look for that flute. To go out of your way and also spend 500 rupees. Maybe did he save and quit just before this? Like, is he thinking,
yes, he
I'm
did.
Just going to hard reset? Okay, okay. Even still, it's a bit of a long shot.
Yeah, I believe he had a save and quit right before he did the Houlihan, which was just before this, so.
Yep, there we go.
I love how he named his seed file Game 3 versus Fylion.
Okay, so he's spending a little bit more time here clearing up some checks. You know, he's doing some of the Smith stuff that we saw fylion do earlier. Again, just trying to be very thorough, but yeah, I don't know. I'd go for GT, but I understand what he's doing.
I mean, you definitely got to be thinking that, you know, through his head right now, he could be going through a lot of different thoughts. He knows the standings. He's probably heard this from a lot of people who have talked to him and approached him. He knows he has to win the next 4 games in order to just make it into a tiebreaker for the brackets. You know, he just wants to make sure that he has all this stuff checked, and he wants to just, again, have the knowledge that he's not going to be forgetting anything.
Yeah, and if he does manage to find the flute, you know, somewhere around here, which we know he won't, it saves you from having to full clear Ganon's tower, which is costly. Mm-hmm. It's a big time.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, for all we know, there's a chance for an item to be behind Isarmos. And we talked about how expensive that fight is in retro mode, so you may not want to clear just because of that alone. So
I mean, what this is doing for fylion right now is allowing him to kind of get back into things a little bit. He's still got a ways to go, but he's, you know, able to go through all of Turtle Rock here. He just got to get through Desert Palace. He'll be catching Zelda with every check that Zelda decides to do out here in the open.
Yeah, this is true, and like at this point, like he knows that, okay, this book that I found has to be basically what's kind of going on here. This is what's could potentially lead me to the next progression, so he's going to want to check all of these things before he moves on. But it looks like Zelda is making his march back up Death Mountain with the Ice Rod, so he is going to be... This is the play to finish up Turtle Rock and then go to Ganon's Tower right afterwards. Unfortunately, getting dead rocked right there.
So it looks like fylion heading for the desert. He's got to really hustle to try and catch up here. But is he doing? Has he done Big Bomb yet?
I guess he has. Yeah. I think he's doing Bombo's tablet.
Yes. Okay.
So he is going to be heading in the right direction. He is following that book right now. That's all he's focused on. So one interesting thing that fylion could have done, and, you know, I understand not doing it this way because it's, you know, would have been just very inconvenient, but it actually would have ended up saving a lot of time, but just did not realize it. We kind of talked about this earlier, saving the portal for Turtle Rock to kind of enter at a later point in the dungeon, so you don't have to go through all the way. One thing he could have done is left the portal there, took a death, saved and continued, as opposed to saving and quitting. Oh wait, no, he'd be Aghanim, so he wouldn't be able to do that. But essentially, a save and continue, if you're in the light world, that will actually keep your portal still there in the position that it was before. and since Ice Rod was in the light world, he could have actually still used that portal, but it would have been a very lengthy process to get back up there. So I can understand him not doing that, and it may have not saved a whole lot of time in the grand scheme of things, but it is something that you could have used some game knowledge for as well.
Mm-hmm.
But he does get the Ice Rod now.
And so Zelda, still without the lamp, he's having just a little bit of trouble in the firebar room there, but really not too much. It's pretty easy dark room to navigate. He's already been to Laser Bridge, so just heading right for Trinex now. Now, one thing I am looking at here is Zelda only has one small key left, and he's gonna have to search a bit in Ganon's tower. Is he gonna have enough keys to get all the way through if the flute is somewhere really deep?
That is definitely a valid concern, and I think there is actually a shop. It may not be an arrow shop, or it could be. I'm not 100% sure on the specifics, but there is actually a shop in Paradox Cave, so could be banking on that to have maybe some keys you could purchase. It's not too far from where we are.
Alrighty, so that is all 7 crystals. So now Zelda is going to be heading on over to Ganon's tower. We're not on the speed gaming channels, but we can always play the big key guessing game. We're also looking for the flute, so we might end up hanging around a little longer. But if you feel like it, you can put your guesses in the chat for where you think the big key is going to be. Oh wow, we do have the bot. Oh, that's so cool.
Thank you, Tile Roombot. So yeah, we do actually have this on the ALTTPR channels as well. You know, just to kind of throw something in the mix, let's see it on location 3.
Oh my goodness. So we have to get the flute to Misery Mire, which is where our boots are? Is that what you're saying?
That's kind of what I'm getting at, yeah.
Oh man. Alrighty, so we're going right side here. Meanwhile, fylion has finished off Lamb Molus, is going to head right back up to Turtle Rock. I don't think he has anything else he could possibly check, so he's got that and that alone to...
Yeah, so he's not honestly too far behind considering, and again, we bring up the small key thing from earlier. That could, you know, end up throwing a bit of a wrench into Zelga's plans if he doesn't get some small keys in this dungeon. So, you know, there is a possibility for things to kind of change here, but it all depends on what Zelda finds in Ganon's tower. But getting a lot of rupees, so... This is where they were all hiding. Well, unfortunately, the big key is not on the torch there.
Zelda not getting any.
Ooh,
All right.
okay. We do get a small key, so that's good.
Key for a key there. Nice use of the red meringue there.
Ooh, hello, final sword upgrade. Pretty trivial at this point now, but still could make some rooms in the gauntlet a little faster. And there is the big key and the boots, but we're not done yet because, you know, there's still that one item we're looking for. We're still looking for the flute.
Now, what chest was that big key in there?
Let's see. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I think?
6.
No, it was 16. Yeah, 16.
Yeah, yeah. So unfortunately, Zelda has opened up the GT big chest, and it is not the flute. So sorry to Long Road there that your dream did not come true. We did find the shovel, which is annoying because that is a location where we can now check to try and find the flute.
And we have the boots as well. That opens up a few locations on land as well. Or it could be right there.
Cool.
Okay, well this is good for Zelda. He is officially in go mode. You know, we've already completed Castle Tower beforehand, so we won't have to complete that, but we will have to complete Misery Mire still. This is an all-dungeon seed. All dungeons, including Pendant Dungeons and Aga Tower, must be completed. So once we get done with Ganon's Tower, going to be doing some saving and quitting, going to be activating the flute, going to Misery Mire, and then finishing up before we go to Ganon.
And with all this cash, Zelda is sparing no expense here, going with silver arrows through the mimic rooms.
And, you know, I saw chat talking about, you know, making sure you save some money for Vitreous because, you know, obviously you want to have about 200, maybe 300 just to have some extras for Ganon. But Vitreous can actually be beaten fairly quickly with silver, so you may want to kind of keep some extra rupees laying around just to kind of make that fight a little faster. Oh, that is true. With Gold Sword, he could also just opt to use the cape on Vitreous as well. And just use the Gold Sword.
Okay, so it looks like fylion is going to go right as well, so unfortunately he won't save any time in the basement. Ooh, maybe some nerves kind of kicking in here. Just missing a couple of the slashes in the Landmo 2.
Also, something we don't see too often in these randomizer seeds in these races. One of our runners has 19 heart containers.
That's like unheard of.
I mean, when you consider the circumstances of this seed, and especially the route that Zelda took, like, he's pretty much full cleared the entire game. The only part of the game he won't be clearing is, like, the top half of Ganon's Tower here. And, of course, you know, Misery Mire, once he finds the big key, he's going to be going straight through it. So, you know, both runners have cleared a large part of this seed out.
Oof. Just making it through there, Zelda making that torch room much harder than it needed to be.
Okay, so Zelda going to be taking care of Moldorm 2 now.
Ooh, inching one heart piece closer to doing a full 20 here.
Yeah. I guess the one thing to keep in mind is that since this is retro mode, there are also the take any's, which basically just hand out free heart containers. But still, like, I mean, you still don't see like this often just how much they cleared in this particular seed.
Mm-hmm. Couple of nice doubles here in the Agatu fight. Kind of a goofy pattern there, unfortunately.
But he does get him down, so that takes care of Agatu, but not quite ready for the Ganon fight, folks. We still have one more dungeon we have to clear in this all-dungeon seed. We have to go to Misery Mire after a flute activation, so... Hey, wait a minute. We haven't activated the flute yet, Duck. What are you doing? And there we go. Knowledge for Fylion that he no longer needs to be checking chests. He has the flutes. He's going to be making his march up to the top of Ganon's Tower as Zelda is activating his flutes and going to be heading off to Misery Mire.
Wow, flute activation at 2 hours and 5 minutes into a seed.
I suppose it's better than not seeing it at all, which is a possibility in defeat Ganon modes.
So I'm sure at this point in the run, Zelga is just hoping for a Godmire, having the big key show up in one of the first chests of the dungeon, so we can just go right for it.
Yeah, it's definitely very convenient to do that. Also, even though the 20 heart dream may not happen for Zelga, fylion, on the other hand, has actually made our wishes come true. He does have 20 hearts.
Amazing.
And as chat pointed out, fylion pretty much has every item in the game with exception to 2 bottles, so that menu screen is looking pretty full.
Ugh, still looking.
Zelga hoping it's not going to be on the cutscene chest here in Mire. Going to be checking these 2 chests over here on the right side first. There's the final big key we'll be needing for this seed. So now Zelga going to be heading straight for the Misery Mire boss. Has to kind of take a bit of a roundabout path here because it doesn't have any small keys, but he can get to the path to the boss, no problem. He's not in a key lock situation right now, so just has to kind of go around this way.
Oh, right. Yeah, he doesn't have the lamb. Oh, God. This has got to be stressful. You're so close to the finish line, and you've got to get this blocked lamb.
Yeah, honestly, I'd say this is more of the final boss for Zelga right now than Ganon or Vitreous. So to answer your question in chat, the lamp was actually on the graveyard ledge. Zelga knew the lamp was there. We got 2 hints that actually told us where the lamp was, but decided he didn't need it. And honestly, if you think you could get through the seed just fine without it, more power to you. Go for it, and that's exactly what he's doing.
So as we've been watching Zelda there, fylion did make his way through Ganon's tower pretty easily there. He's going to head over and activate his flute and be over to the Mire area shortly, just as Zelga is going to be taken off, I think.
And yeah, not even going to be spending arrows on Vitreous here. Just going to go straight for the cape and sword. And we'll be using 2 silvers to finish Vitreous off. Going to be only 100 rupees. Not a bad expense. Vitreous down, and now Zelga just has Ganon left. Gets his 20th heart container, and gets the green pendant.
Wow, it's a 2020 right here.
Yes, it is. Okay, so here we go into the Ganon fight. Aga taken care of already in Aga Tower, so we just have this fight remaining. Gonna have to play it a little safe there. Gonna use blue potion just to heal up a little bit. Does make it phase 3 though.
Misses the torch glitch into phase 4, but shouldn't really affect 2. Just like that, down goes Ganon. So get your GGs in the chat for zelgadissan. Staying alive and finishing up with an official SRL time of 2:12:32.
Yeah, get your GGs in chat for certain, because Zelga's journey through the group stage of this tournament are continuing. He still has a shot at brackets, has to win the next 3 matches in order to get into a tiebreaker with Elminster. Still very much in his grasp, and you know, best of luck to him moving forward. And fylion, you know, not too far behind. He is still cleaning up mire here. He is going to be going for the cutscene chest. And I know chat's really kind of hoping for that final bottle to be in here, just so he can have a complete full inventory.
Alrighty, so it looks like we have Zelda in our waiting rooms. So let's bring him on. Zelda, you did it, my man. GG's.
Hey, GG's. That was a thing.
Oh boy, was it a thing. So give us some thoughts, I guess, on how this seed went.
Oh, man. So, I spent probably over an hour of this seed thinking that I had sequence broken around the flute, and that it had to have been in, like, Sasha's closet, or Eastern, or Agina, basically, or I guess Zora. And it was a very sharp realization after I had already skipped a chest in Desert, thinking, well, that can't be the flute, that I read, oh, man, that could have been the flute. And there were just so many things, like my whole mental state was clearly not on top tonight. But I mean, I made it through somehow.
Oh, you know, I was just thinking about what you said there about skipping something in Desert. You completely walked past the big check.
Yeah, because I was thinking I was in quote unquote go mode. I was like, well, I've checked everything else, so I guess Zora was guaranteed to have the flute, so I'll just do that afterwards. and he did not.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, okay, that makes sense then, because we saw you doing so many checks, kind of after we thought, hey, shouldn't you just go to Turtle Rock and then GT after that? But you know, you were really being thorough about cleaning out some spots there, and now it kind of makes.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. Is that I was sitting there thinking, I clearly have missed the flute somewhere, and then eventually I was like, well, I've got to just go to Ganon's Tower and hope it's there, and hope it wasn't in that one chest of desert. I think the only thing I had left before Ganon's Tower, between like hints and stuff I'd seen but just didn't get, was catfish.
Right, and I believe catfish was only just bombs anyway, so yeah, you definitely lucked out there. But yeah, I was actually wondering about that when you mentioned, you know, thinking that flute was supposed to be the potential access for Death Mountain. I was kind of wondering because, yeah, because you got that hint about the lamp being on Graveyard Ledge, so did you just kind of think that because of that, mirror was just going to be later on in the logic, and that flute was your main access up there to begin with?
I thought that when I saw the hint, I think it was the one in Turtle Rock, because I know there were 2 lamp hints.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one I saw in Turtle Rock made me think that the mirror was probably somewhat kind of early, but I was thinking that it was probably in like the Mire Shed area, because I was thinking, well, the flute was early, and now I got this, which the flute would have gotten me my access up to get the Titan's mitts. So then I was like, okay, it could be in that area. And yeah, all sorts of routing misunderstandings of the logic in this seed.
Well, it's a good thing that it all worked out in the end, because that, you know, when you're really not sure the logic, sometimes that can go horribly wrong. But yeah, luckily it didn't really burn you.
Yeah, I guess I was talking with. I guess I shouldn't spoil it, but I was talking a little bit with fylion that it seems like the book was kind of the main thing, and even then I was thinking, well, okay, that's nothing, because that's just tablets, because I've still got this flute out here that I know I should have had an hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the book was a pretty interesting part of the run. You went up to Turtle Rock, and once you picked up the bow, you continued into the dungeon further, which allowed you to pick up that book, which I think gave you the edge there, because when fylion went into Turtle Rock the first time, he grabbed the bow and then he noped out.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and it makes sense depending on how many things he had elsewhere. Like, there's a lot of items in Turtle Rock and Retro, but at the same time, if you got a bunch more item options elsewhere, it kind of makes sense to assume that the higher percentage is not.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of fylion, we do have a finish from him. fylion finishing in 2nd place with a time of 2 hours, 18 minutes, and 43 seconds. Get your GGs in chat. This was quite a marathon of a seed for sure. So much of the game was looked at. So much was full cleared. So, you know, as close to 100% seed as you're probably going to get in a match like this. So definitely kudos to both runners for making it through.
And with fylion hanging out in our waiting room, let's bring him on in and see what he has to say about this one. Hey, fylion, GG's.
GG's all around, and congrats to Zelda. I come bearing good news. The 4th bottle is in Mire Shed. It was so close.
Ooh.
So close to a complete tracker. So, yeah, give us some initial thoughts, man. What'd you make of that one?
You know, that was a long, long race, and until the dot done, I had no idea who was winning. Like, it was impossible to tell. There were like 4 spots you could get bottlenecked in this seed, and it was plausible that Zelda would have gotten bottlenecked at some or all of them. I knew I had missed like the mirror bottleneck and the cane bottleneck, and that was great. And as I was going through, and eventually I went back to Turtle Rock, it was just... I don't know what he did. I have no idea how he routed this. There were so many ways. Is he done already? Is he behind me? I can't tell.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do have an important question. Was the bow early enough for you?
No.
Okay,
No.
that's fair.
Or it was too early. And here's why I say that actually is because where it dropped in Turtle Rock, my thought was, I still have the rest of the game open to me. I need 2 items for Go Mode. There's no way the only required progression I need is in Turtle Rock. I just got the bow. This seed has been full of really, really linear chains. I better go to Eastern and Pod. So in a weird way, I feel like if the bow hadn't been right there, I would have just gone all the way to Laser Bridge. But that's how it goes. It's not like me dip out of Turtle Rock early, and maybe I should be more like me.
Well, I mean, it makes sense why you did what you did, because Zelda had previously been to Pod before doing any of Turtle Rock, so kind of had that knowledge in hand that there wasn't really going to be too much in there. But on your side of the equation, you hadn't been to either Eastern or Pod, so that was a lot of items that bow opened up. So it made a lot of sense to go first somewhere where there was going to be maybe, better odds at finding more progression.
Exactly. And now here's the other thing. Part of it was a calculated gamble, and part of it was I looked at what happened in Swamp. I said, I'm still on Fighter's Sword, I'm still on Green Mail, I don't have any bottles. I'm not sure I can actually, survive this dungeon. And if I had gone right first in Turtle Rock, I would have found Blue Mail.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's how this, that's how Rando kind of turns on a dime. Is you do those little things, and your whole routing for the race changes.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting you mentioned that, because there was definitely one point in the race, I believe it was when Zelda was kind of cleaning out both Pod and Eastern, and you were actually kind of cleaning out Ice Palace at the time. And at that point, like, Zelda had already gotten the book, I think, by that point. So when we looked at what was kind of left in terms of locations to look at, there were the 3 or 4 checks via the Smith chain, and then there were going to be the 3 or 4 checks in the desert area. So it really could have been either one of those, and depending on which place it was, would have been an advantage for, either one of you. If it was in desert, it would have given Zelgi the edge because he had the book. If it was on the Smith chain, you would have had the edge because you would have been able to go right up to Turtle Rock and full complete it. So, that, again, like you said, that's the way Randomizer works sometimes, is sometimes it does just come down to that just kind of coin toss situation. And that's kind of what we saw here today, honestly, because both of you routed surprisingly very differently. You were kind of on the same path, but when you kind of got to the Dark World access, you kind of had different routes. First, you went to Swamp, obviously, Fylion, and Zelda kind of worked on the Skull Woods and the Thieves Town and all of that. But again, just that's Randomizer for you.
At the risk of sounding like someone in chat, the seed was absolutely screaming Swamp Palace at me.
It totally was. I was screaming Swamp Palace.
But, so I was talking to Zelda about this a bit. I checked the tier 2 tree pull. I found out it was 80 rupees. He didn't know that. And so I was farming the heck out of that tree pull, which is why I was going into, I was going back to the castle and I got the mirror. I was like, oh, hey, I need to check those chests. And there's a tree along the way for a ton of money.
Okay.
Ironically, there was one time where I killed 4 enemies and didn't even get hit. So I pulled the tree and I got 4 rupees, and I just stared at it going, that's not right. I must have gotten hit at some point.
That's hilarious.
Alright, so Zelga, let's talk about your standing in the group here. So with this win, you're staying alive, my man. You're at 7-5 now, so you've got 3 more races to go to get up to 10-5 and into a tie with Elminster. How are you feeling?
Honestly, it's not something that I don't expect to make the full gambit. Like, you don't go against players of this caliber and think you're gonna win 4 straight. I mean, everything in this group has always just been 1 or 2 little decisions, 1 or 2 plays. And honestly, it seems like this kind of was the same, even with how weird the seed was. And I fully expect that surely one of these isn't going to go my way. But I'm looking forward to the challenge. I've got all the races. I've got 1 race each of the next 3 days. And I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do. I got a race tomorrow morning with Illis. Then a Saturday with Cadenza, and then Sunday with Illis again to finish it out.
Wow. It's a pretty packed schedule there and a lot on the line. That's real.
Yeah, looking forward to the challenge. It's going to be rough, and especially tomorrow where I didn't really feel like picking a setting that I knew my opponent would hate, just for the very reason I didn't expect to really even make it quite this far into the group. So it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to make him play a crappy mode when we're just playing for fun, but now, who knows?
And fylion, you've got a couple more matches left. I guess this kind of unfortunately puts you down to, like, what, 3-10? Which isn't really reflective of what a great runner you are.
I don't know, did you
got
see
2
that
more
Argus fight?
Yeah, well, you know, that was pretty scrubby. But that aside, so have you got your last 2 matches lined up?
Yeah, I think I got one Saturday afternoon with Dracaris, and then Sunday with Illis, or vice versa.
Nice.
But, you know, looking forward to them. Kind of the same as today. I know I'm not advancing, but I wanted to get a win off of Zelda if I could. I want to get a win off of Dracaris if I could. And, you know, still want to come out ahead against Illis. I love this whole group that we're in. Where I think everyone in the group is going to play all their matches, which I'm pretty pleased with. But, you know, we have a lot of fun. We've, as DT said during the reveal stream, you've got me and Elminster in the group name that's a pun, so it's just a good time.
True.
Alrighty, so I guess we should kind of wrap this up then. Any final thoughts from either runner?
Just GG's. I know I did happen to win all 3 of these races, but honestly, they were all ridiculously close in theory. And so GG's, and looking forward to playing some more in the future. And thank you guys for having the commentary and the restream. And
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the same for me. I was saying to Zelda, you know, much as I wanted to get a win off against him, I do hope his run goes really well, and I look forward to more with him in the future. Thanks for stepping up to comm, guys.
Hey, no problem at all. Thank you both for giving me such a great showing, a great race to watch, and also fylion, a nice timer font. I love inside jokes.
Cool. Well, with that, I guess that's going to do it. Big shout out to our tracker Long Road, doing an excellent job behind the scenes. Thank you so much. And our restreamer Sinak there. Thanks for picking this one up so it got on the air. Much appreciated. And big thanks to Slim Kirby for joining me in the commentary booth here. It's our first time working together in the tournament. I'm glad I got to share the booth.
As always, Sabatender, it's been a pleasure. Love working with you as well. And, of course, thanks to all of the people who came by to watch this race as well. It was a fun race, had a good time, and, you know, more randomizer on the way. Always more randomizer on the way. In fact, I guess very quickly, let me pull the schedule up here to see what the next race we're going to have for you. Well, I think for the rest of the night, there is a race that might be finishing up on Speed Gaming 5 at the moment. But aside from that, the next race is actually going to be tomorrow morning at 11:30 a.m. We have Azazus versus Prior 57 on Speed Gaming 2. Going to be a Ganon. Defeat Ganon inverted swordless hard with no variation. So that's going to be a toughie. Hard and swordless. So if you want to, and inverted on top of that. So if you want to check that out, come by tomorrow morning and watch more Randomizer with us. Always happy to have you. But yeah, this is Slim Kirby signing out, and talk to you guys later.